How's it going, everyone? It's Hobby from Untitled Chapter. Today is February 28th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on the major severe weather and flood threat that's impacting the Southeast and the Northeast right now, and it's going to continue to impact a lot of the United States over the next couple of hours. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at this map I created, which gives a general idea of what is going on right now regarding the severe weather and flood threat. And you see that I colored a large area of the United States between the Northeast all the way as far south and west as Texas, where we do see Texas in the reds, and what the reds represent is more likely chance of severe weather, flooding, and also tornadoes, especially when we go to darker reds where some tornado warnings have been issued today, and it's probably going to continue as the night goes on. So this severe weather threat ended up being more serious than the computer models originally expected, thanks to the increased amount of cold air that's behind this storm, behind this cold front, to really create that instability to create very strong and potent thunderstorms. So as a result, the severe weather threat is a lot more impactful than originally expected. If we take a look at the current warnings issued from this severe weather threat, you're going to see that the yellows represent tornado watches, which extend through Arkansas, in the extreme northern portions of Mississippi, and also into Tennessee as well, where you guys have the possibility of receiving a couple tornadoes tonight in certain areas. So you guys need to stay alert for that, because these tornadoes definitely could be deadly at times. I don't expect it to be necessarily, I'd say, a major tornado threat, because unstable air and the amount of convection and how strong the updrafts and downdrafts aren't necessarily there to really make this an extremely intense tornado threat. However, the chance of tornadoes is certainly there, and the issuing of tornado watches from the National Weather Service proves that point. So, and looking even further to the northeast, you see that there's a large area of darker greens, which represent flash flood watches, and flood watches as well, where we see a lot of areas under at least flood watches or flash flood watches extending through Mississippi, Alabama, a lot of Tennessee, and as well as Kentucky. And then for a large area, we also see flood warnings extend throughout West Virginia and Pennsylvania and all throughout Ohio and Kentucky. Well, I don't know if they're flood warnings, because it could either be a flood warning or a flood advisory based off of the color contours I'm seeing right here. But either way, there's a chance of flooding. So you guys need to keep a close eye on this one, because the amount of rainfall this could make it a major flood threat for certain areas. And we've already seen tens of reports of flooding throughout Kentucky and extending to Tennessee as well, thanks to the amount of just sheer rainfall there was, and how large the area of rain was to create flood threat throughout the Ohio River Valley, or I should say just south of the Ohio River Valley. If we take a look at the current radar, you're gonna see why, because you see the darker greens, the bright yellows showing up on the radar, which represents very high rainfall rates, and this extends to Illinois, throughout Missouri and Arkansas, and throughout Kentucky as well. And it's been raining like this for several hours over the same areas. You see that this radar loop goes from an hour past, and you see that a lot of the same areas just been under very heavy rainfall and been under the yellow colored portions of the radar for a very long time. So this will definitely induce a lot of flash flooding. And flash flooding, you need to keep in mind that with flash flooding, it doesn't matter how high or low the rivers are. Usually flash flooding affects the smaller creeks, which typically don't take days to really get into flood stage. It could only take a couple minutes. Just like that, they could be flooding, thanks to the increased amount of of tension between the banks of the smaller creeks, and which forces the water to go way higher than, let's say, a regular sized river, where the banks are a lot wider, a lot broader, so that water is able to sort of spread out and not move as fast through the river to have a increased flash flood threat, unlike creeks. So if you're along a small creek, you definitely need to pay close attention to this, because the flash flooding could be a major issue with this storm. And not only the flash flooding will be the issue, like I said, tornadoes and severe weather could also be a major issue thanks to how much unstable air there is. It's forcing the air molecules towards the Gulf of Mexico to be very buoyant. It's forcing them to rise very rapidly. And as a result, we're seeing just very strong updrafts, which are promoting very high cloud tops. And the updrafts are so strong that it's outweighing any sort of downdraft that's associated with these thunderstorms. So as a result, these thunderstorms are forming. They could produce damaging winds thanks to how buoyant the air molecules are. And as a result, there's going to be a lot of air molecules wanting to filter in to where the air molecules are very buoyant, and there isn't a ton of air molecules thanks to the increased convection right around these thunderstorm areas. So as a result, damaging winds will be the issue. Hail will be the issue thanks to just because of the sheer amount of how strong that updraft is. So definitely severe. So you guys need to pay close attention to severe weather, because I'll say at this point it's likely you're going to experience severe weather from this storm. And in terms of tornadoes, while I don't expect any major tornado threat, the threat is certainly there. And the tornado watches definitely prove that point, that tornadoes will be an issue for a lot of the Southeast for today. But let's take a look at the Futurecast Radar. So one of your main questions might be, how long will this severe weather threat last? So we have to first take a look at the Futurecast Radar, and this, as of right now, which is fairly similar to what the radar is saying. I'd say the rain area is a little bit larger, which would promote a little bit more of a heavy rainfall threat and a flood threat, but for the most part, it's at least around the ballpark from where we are right now with the current radar. And you see that for right now, there's long band thunderstorms extending through Tennessee, Arkansas. Some of these are severe, and I think there's a tornado warning issued for somewhere around Arkansas. So you guys need to take cover if you're watching this video, which I hope you're not, because I want you guys to take cover right now. But if we continue to move forward, you see the severe thunderstorms continue to move a little bit further southward, as well as this cold front that's behind it, where we're going to see that jet stream dip just enough to bring those thunderstorms further southward. And you see that while the good news is while the thunderstorms do weaken later during the night, because at nighttime, there's a lot less unstable air, since the shortwave radiation from the sun prevents the energy from hitting the Earth's surface to heat up the Earth and to hold a lot more air molecules to cause a major thunderstorm threat. It's still, the severe weather is still there in isolated areas, I'd say, and we're still seeing heavy rainfall from this. So flash flooding, even headed into the overnight for a lot of Southeast, could still be the issue, because while the thunderstorms might not necessarily be severe, they'll be strong enough to at least dump a good amount of rainfall over the same areas for several hours, which could induce a flash flooding threat, or even a regular river flooding threat, where the river could flood within a couple of days, depending on how much rainfall is forecasted from in your area. And you see that head into overnight, pretty much all severe thunderstorms are non-existent at this point, thanks to the lack of unstable air, and there's only a couple of thunder showers here and there with heavier rainfall. But for the most part, even the heavy rain has weakened. And then you see by 9 a.m. you see a lot of thunderstorm activity is a lot of heavy rain activity is gone, which is definitely good news. And we do and then you see that headed into tomorrow, the severe weather that doesn't seem to be as pronounced as currently what the GFS model is forecasting, is that by the time we head into tomorrow, there won't be as much unstable air, because you see around this time, well, pretty much right now, you see that there's the cold air behind it is going as far south as New Mexico and Texas, which is inducing a lot of severe thunderstorms and unstable air in this region. However, if we move forward, you see that the jet stream dip isn't as pronounced anymore, and we sort of see the jet stream dip transition more up northward, and it's more in an area where it's more straightened out, I should say, especially towards the Ohio River Valley. So severe weather won't be as much of an issue tomorrow, and almost non-existent, I'll say. And you see that jet stream dip is only maybe more pronounced where the warm air is in front of the jet stream. It's more pronounced just off the coast of the Northeast, but by that time, not only will the majority of the rainfall will be out off the coast of the Northeast to bring any sort of severe weather, the temperatures will be too cold to hold much water vapor to create those thunderstorms. So as a result, there shouldn't be much of any severe weather threat for most of the United States, which is good news. That this severe weather, the meat and potatoes of severe weather threat, should end tonight for a lot of you guys. However, even though it will end tonight, the impacts will not be limited for today, as you see that in terms of the chances of excessive rainfall. You see that for a lot of Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia, a little bit of West Virginia, you see that there's a moderate chance of excessive rainfall within this area, and excessive rainfall is equivalent to over an inch, and it's equivalent to pretty much a flash flood threat. And if you're in the red, you have a 20% chance or more, between 20 or 50% chance of receiving a flash flood threat, which is just too high of a chance to really disregard, because 20 to 50%, while it's less likely than not, it's still in within this area. The chances of at least getting some sort of flash flood threat somewhere within this area, I'd say it's pretty high. At least one area in the red will get a flash flood threat, so you guys need to pay close attention to this. And even if you don't receive a flash flood threat necessarily, it could induce a chance of heavy river flooding in the future, so you guys need to pay close attention to this and not underestimate this, just because you might be in the minority chance when it comes to flash flooding. And then you see the yellows, it's a little more slight, but still a chance of flash flooding. And then the greens are a little less, which includes Texas and Pennsylvania and Ohio and some areas in the Southeast. As you see that the green you only have 5 to 10% chance of flash flooding, but still at least be aware of that you're at least could be in the flash flooding threat. But moving on, in terms of the total rainfall you should expect over the next 24 hours, and keep in mind this is on top of the rainfall you've already been experiencing for the past several hours throughout the Southeast. So to add even more rain on top of that is just going to add insult to injury and could induce a lot of major to moderate to minor river flooding throughout the Southeast. And you see that still close to 2 inches or right around 2 inches is forecasted for northern Louisiana, the eastern portion of Texas, and as well as the extreme southeastern portion of Arkansas, where you could expect around 2 inches of rain over the next 24 hours on top of what you already experienced. So I think flooding should be likely, especially if your river is very high at this point in the Southeast. And then you see that still a large area of right around over an inch of rain pretty much in the blues, from Pennsylvania all the way to Texas, where over an inch of rain on top of what you already experienced should be expected in the blues, and especially in the purples, where 2 inches I'd say is more likely. So this should definitely be something you need to watch. A flood threat is certainly possible with this, and make sure to heed your warnings from your officials and from the National Weather Service. And if we look at the next 5 days, you see that the rainfall is right around 4 inches in Louisiana, so it's a little bit more. And we could have another low pressure system that could dump even more rain throughout the Southeast, so you guys need to pay close attention to that as well. And in terms of the chance of severe weather, you see that in the yellows, it's primarily slight, but I'd say it's a little bit higher than that. I'd say it's an enhanced chance. So because we've already been seeing a lot of severe weather throughout the southeast, so I'd say more likely than not you guys should expect a severe weather threat, and at least a severe weather threat for tonight. However, the good news is by tomorrow the threat will be much smaller, as there's only a very slight to almost non-existent chance throughout the southeast of receiving severe weather thanks to the lack of unstable air. And in terms of the chance of a tornado, so there's a map provided by weathernation.com, and you see that pretty much a 5 to 10% chance of a tornado throughout this area, which isn't a high chance. Like I said, I don't expect this to be a major tornado threat, but there's still that chance of tornadoes, and you need to pay a close eye on this if you're in the southeast. So all in all, just stay safe throughout the southeast, because the severe weather threat could be major for a lot of you guys, and the flash flooding could be major. And remember that the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States is due to flooding. So you never want to underestimate a flood threat if it's around your area. And I hope you guys stay safe and heed your warnings. And if you see water on a roadway, remember to turn around and don't drown, which is the warning that you should heed and listen to, because typically although water on the roadway might be a lot shallower, might look a lot shallower, it's typically it's a lot deeper than you think. So guys, definitely keep that in mind in the future, because I want you guys to all stay safe and your families as well. But moving forward, beyond the severe weather threat, there isn't going to be much going on in the United States. We do need to watch this next pressure system that's expected to form thanks to a little bit of an upper level low that's going to be located right around Texas and Oklahoma. That's going to induce some unstable air in this region. So as a result, we're going to see a good amount of rain throughout the southeast, which could dump even more rain in some areas that have already experienced a lot of rain from this current rainstorm we're experiencing. So we need to keep that in mind. But other than that, not much. Maybe some snow showers throughout Utah and Colorado headed into the 4-day mark, but this low pressure system as well is expected to weaken, as it's going to be primarily a quiet week for a lot of the United States for the first week of March. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. I hope you guys have a good day.